To a mega ET Now exclusive, Labour Secretary Vandana Gurnani lays bare the context and the backdrop of the major labour code overhaul. She explains why this was much needed and talks about how this will bring about a transformational shift. Here's an excerpt of that conversation.
Provisions for fixed term employment, which again are in sync with the flexibility that is needed in our current economic situation, because it allows industries to be able to hire people for limited period of time when they have a peak demand, and they can hire them directly without going through the contractors. And it's also a win-win situation for the employees, because they get all the benefits of regular employees like leave, maternity benefit, and even gratuity if they complete 1 year. Plus, if you ask me, the youth of today are mobile. They want an experience in a particular industry or a sector, and then with that experience they build their CV and they want to move on to other sectors. So it meets those aspirations that instead of working through contractors, they are working directly with the company, and it helps to build their employability also. When we talk about Industry 4.0, I would also have to talk about women's participation. And these codes have a slew of measures which are in favor of women, whether it is allowing nighttime employment of women. Women are allowed in every employment now, including hazardous industries. Women have options to work from home in the services sector. There are provisions for the care, that is creches, etc., where there are more than 50 employees. So in that sense, it is preparing for Industry 4.0, where women, which cannot happen without women's participation. And again, a big push on digital. The compliances would be all through a digital mechanism. For the industries, there is a huge amount of compliance reduction. So the number of sections and rules come down to 1/3 of what they were previously. There would be a single registration, there would be a single license pan India, there would be a single return. And the number of returns, etc., that they have to file has been therefore drastically brought down. So in that sense, with the reduction in compliance, it's likely to spur even more domestic investment.
You mentioned about gig workers, platform workers. For the first time, they are going to get legal recognition, where these aggregators will have to contribute 1 to 2% of their annual turnover to the social welfare funds. So how would government ensure the implementation of this provision?
So if you see the code, the provisions are very clear that a social security fund would be set up. In this fund, the contribution from the aggregators, which is 1 to 2% of their turnover, subject to a maximum of 5% of the payout to the workers, would be deposited. And from this fund, schemes would be framed, which would ensure that the gig and platform workers get social security, whether it is pension or insurance. There would be a social security board that will be set up, which will be, as we have in labor, most mechanisms are tripartite. This would also be a tripartite mechanism with representation of both employers and the gig and platform workers, which would overall monitor and oversee the implementation of these initiatives. The workers would register on eShram portal. They're already registering, but these numbers would now, with the formulation of the board and the fund and the scheme, this will go up. And they would get the benefits of pension, etc., through an Aadhaar-linked DBT mechanism. So this is how this entire mechanism would work.
So you must have discussed this provision with the industry as well, especially aggregators. Are they agree on this provision?
Yes, in fact, aggregators are quite on board. From our discussion, aggregators were actually looking forward more to a national framework and a national governance mechanism, because they work across states. So instead of different states having different mechanisms, aggregators were more in favor of a national framework. Also, from the perspective of a gig and platform worker, it works very well, because when they move across states, their social security becomes portable. It is not that if they move from state A to B that they lose their social security. Especially pension is a long-term social security. It needs to be portable, and therefore this national mechanism will be a win-win situation for both aggregators as well as the workers.
One of the provisions is that there will be mandatory health checkups for the employees above 40 years. And of course, this is one of the provisions which must be appreciated in given circumstances where you have, post-COVID era, where we have a lot of challenges we are facing. My question to you is that don't you think that this provision is going to put more financial pressure on the industry? how to address this? I mean, because they have raised some concerns about it.
See, I would say one should not look this as a cost and a burden. It's actually a long-term investment in human capital. And that is the way it has to be viewed. If this little investment is done in ensuring that workers get an annual, especially those above 40, an annual health checkup, it is eventually going to lead to more productivity, less absenteeism. It would bring down the out-of-pocket expenditure by the workers. It would help industry itself detect if there are any occupational health kind of conditions that are developing, take immediate corrective measures within their industrial setup, make sure proper treatment, etc. can be tied up. So I think it's not to be viewed as a cost and a burden, but to be used as an investment, which will lead to worker welfare as well as productivity enhancement.